Welcome to Brainstorm MTG. I'm ELD, and this is Fast Effect, Double Speed Magic the Gathering from ELD's Time Vault Games in Bellingham, Mass. It's part of the ELD Vintage Open. And I'm actually on camera this time around. Got the pairing in round one, and ended up on camera quite a bit this time, actually. Put up some good results, and here I am playing against Sean on Death and Tentacles, a white Eldrazi deck. Has quite a lot of board control capable, and really can put a bit of a beating on you. You got Thought-Knot Seers, Reality Smashers, a whole bunch of very dangerous cards that can win on their own given a few turns. And it has its tricks as well. So going to 4 here with Dredge. Now, for those unfamiliar with Vintage Dredge, you do literally mulligan until you hit Bazaar. That is not a meme. That is actually precisely how the deck is played. It is a simple decision tree. There is no hand that you're going to be keeping without a Bazaar. And there we see Serum Powder, enabling finally drawing those 4 extra cards. That works a little differently than you would think. You don't just get a fresh 7 cards to look at when you Serum Powder. You actually put the cards on the bottom of the library, then you take your hand, put them aside. So there you saw 4 cards being drawn. One of them did happen to be Bazaar. And now we see Dakmor Salvage, the lone Dredger, not very impressive. Going back, Cabal Therapy in the bin. Draw step, drawing that Dakmor Salvage. And Sean with no turn 1 or turn 2 play, fairly unusual for this deck. Does not have a whole bunch of acceleration. It is very much a Null Rod deck. It has Soul Lands and Eldrazi Temples, as compared to the full suite of Artifact Accelerants. And Gitaxian Probe is responded to with a main deck Containment Priest. So that is very bad news. Stinkweed Imp going to hand. Gitaxian Probe was the other blue card for the Force of Will. However, it looks like he actually has 2 Containment Priests, so even Force of Willing that would not have done. Likely ends up being better off that Gitaxian Probe was a Dredger, to be honest. 2 damage coming in. And a Glow Rider, meaning spells are going to cost 1 more mana here. Now, I believe Cabal Therapy is going to be a necessary part of this, so land should probably be entering the battlefield ASAP to be able to untap and potentially pay for a Cabal Therapy. With this Containment Priest on board, I believe the only line toward victory is going to be getting a hollow one in play. Of course, that's going to cost 3 or 6 less once you activate Bazaar. So that 5 mana goes to 0. Glow Rider doesn't interact with that part, but you will need the 1 mana to pay for Cabal Therapy. Once that happens, if you've got enough Bridges and Hogak in your graveyard, you can potentially start casting Hogak and making some headway. But this Phyrexian, what is that? Is that a... It's not an Obliterator. Obligator? Let me know in the comments. This white Eldrazi, and he can blink out opposing creatures, really any creature. And with Containment Priest, that means that it will not come back. So it exiles and then stays exiled. More Containment Priest in hand. Likely to come down here. Facing down lethal. And this has been a brutal game 1. The hollow one is there, but not going to be able to... Oh, Strip Mine. So it can actually go ahead and Therapy here. So Therapy, how many Bridges have made it in there? Just 2. And another Containment Priest. Oh, 2 Containment Priests. Oh, this is actually interesting here. If I've got 2 Hogaks, this could actually be fine because he's tapped out here. Oh, and the 4th Containment Priest in hand. How's that? 4 Containment Priests game 1 versus Dredge? And I can't tell if there's a Hogak or 2 in the graveyard. If there's 2 Hogaks, it actually would be time to generate a ton of tokens. Of course, Sean would be able to exile those tokens. Oh, can that thing hit non-token creatures? That's an interesting question. Let me check. I don't even know the name of the card. I feel like it's Phyrexian and then something with an O. Let's see if I can pull that up as this decision's being made. There's the Hogak. But no mana to cast a second Cabal Therapy, even if it's there. So we'll not be able to loop. And it looks like from here it's Academic. Eldrazi Obligator. Was I saying Phyrexian before? You can tell we do these in one take. Yeah, it is Eldrazi Obligator. Thought it had an O in it. Oh no, it's not Obligator. Wow, you can really tell we do these in one take. I'll try and find it during the sideboarding time. Dredge is going to be bringing in board-based cards here. Contagion, potentially Force of Vigor, which can stop Leyline of the Void, and much of the graveyard hate out there. Mindbreak Trap and Surgical Extraction have become more popular in recent months just due to how good Force of Vigor is. I mean, it's a brutal card. The other side of that equation is this deck actually runs Unmasked now, so now you've got 4 Unmasked to go along with those 4 Cabal Therapy. So really no zone is safe. You can go after their hand or the board, and you can go after the stack with your Force of Wills and Force of Negation. So it's pretty impressive how much you can fit into a deck when you don't have a mana base. I mean, you've got literally just a Strip Mine and a Dredge Land, Dakmor Salvage as your mana base. It's really just there to potentially pay 1 for sphere effects and occasionally land screw your opponent. It is an aggro deck of sorts. So, I mean, those cards aren't even 100% necessary in my view. We'll see as I play the deck more if that view will evolve, but I'll tell you, this deck has it all right now except for a mana base, so pretty impressive. But down a game, and games 2 and 3 usually where Dredge has the harder time. You don't usually run up against 4 Containment Priests game 1, certainly not all 4 being drawn. Displacer. Eldrazi Displacer is the name of that card. Thank you for anyone who chimed in the comments. This sideboarding time did give me a chance to check. And now we're seeing a Serum Powder in the top 7. So that's a free 7 drawing towards Bizarre Bag. Oh, and another one. Hollow one, no Bizarre. So 14 cards exiled here. That really does change the math quite a bit. You'll find if you do pilot Dredge or play against it, once that Serum Powder removes a huge chunk of the deck like that, super often you're going to be seeing multiple Bizarres. So this is a Mull to 6 going to be on the play. We do allow playtest cards or proxies here at our vintage events. That is a holdover from quite some time ago. And really considering not having... So it's 15 proxy would be the way you typically refer to it, or 15 playtest cards, I believe Wizards of the Coast would rather us call it. I think I'm going to go ahead and allow Gold Border and CE cards to not count toward that limit. I think it'd be a good idea. I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Even if it's not in your area, even if you can't ever make it down to the shop, I'm interested in some feedback on that. I think that would be a real significant improvement for people to be able to play those cards, have them really show up the way they want, certainly on camera. And honestly, I really feel like if that was what Vintage had allowed back in the day instead of proxies, I think the format would be in a better place. I think when people buy the cards and they invest in the format, they identify as a Vintage player. And once you think of yourself as a Vintage player, I mean, Vintage players play Vintage. When there's a Vintage tournament, you're really incentivized to try and go make it. I know that's a little bit of a simplification, but I think that those incentives matter. And I think that might have been a better path for Vintage in the US. So I'm leaning toward that. We'll see. I'll put a little bit more thought into it, but that's kind of my gut feeling here, is if we allow CE cards, that would probably be a better way instead of, the crummy proxies that, I mean, I'm guilty of as well. I had to unmask or proxy unmask for this deck, and they are some garbage proxies. I don't even have the full text on them. It's not ideal. So here we go. Hollow one on the first turn. Thorn of Amethyst off of Ancient Tomb for Sean. And we'll see if this 4/4 can possibly be enough. Got Narcomoeba and Prized Amalgam triggering. Looks like another Amalgam in there. Draw Step, Dredging, Stinkweed Imp, getting another Narcomoeba. So this is spiraling out of control pretty quickly here for Sean. Oh, and Strip Mine taking out the Ancient Tomb. Prized Amalgam coming back. And that is it for Sean. He is not interested in seeing where that goes. Going to have essentially 1 or 2 more turns there. Let's see. There would have been 12 damage coming in. So if he had Ancient Tomb for mana in his hand, he would not have been able to use it. So that was absolutely brutal. That Strip Mine potentially sealing the deal. Making sure that he did not have a way back into that game. Those Prized Amalgams so good at bringing each other back from the graveyard. Dredging can happen kind of in between. And, one will be triggered to come back during the end step, and then you can do some more dredging prior to that end step. And then when that one comes back, it'll return any Prized Amalgams that found their way into the bin during those extra dredges. It's a really resilient card. And I think Narcomoeba, probably the strongest card. How would I say this? I believe it's the card that people understand the least. Like when you talk to people in general about Dredge, I think Narcomoeba is a very key element in the fact that it's a free creature that enters immediately during the dredging process. And it really is just absolutely core to the deck. And, to that point, I've actually seen people sideboard out a Narcomoeba or two in certain matchups. I think that's just always incorrect. I think that card just makes the deck work. And here we go, keeping on 7. A good sign there for Dredge. Sean really thinking this one through. And opening up on Wasteland. Activating Bazaar. Grave Troll, Cabal Therapy, and a Narcomoeba. Unmask. That is literally just unmasked, scribbled on a Raging Goblin. And there's a Containment Priest, that Eldrazi Displacer, and a Thalia. And does he use the Wasteland now? I mean, it feels like he pretty much can't afford to go back a land drop He draws Cavern of Souls and does not cast Thalia, and that's probably a bad thing. Prized Amalgam being triggered. And from here, I believe probably time to start trying to draw into Hollow Ones or Contagion. This is likely incorrect to be dredging so aggressively, as I think we can guess what that card in hand is if he didn't bother casting Thalia. And another Bazaar of Baghdad. And we've got a Narco. And looks like, fortunately, no Hollow Ones or Contagions in there so far. So this Containment Priest is going to enter. And I'm not sure how I feel about playing the second Bazaar. I feel like that's probably incorrect. It's going to get to the point where going to have to dig for either that Hollow One. I mean, we're at the point where you have to dig for the Hollow One or that Contagion. And it's realistically, it's just Hollow One. Unless you get really fancy, because you also need mana now to cast Contagion, thanks to the Thalia. So, may have been a little more aggressive than is merited. And, well, Contagion has been found, though. Contagion plus black card, now it's going to be 3 mana. Oh, and Eldrazi Thought-Knot's here, just coming down and ruining that plan. That is absolutely devastating. So there was a Wasteland used by Sean on that other Bazaar, so that's actually fairly good situation. But yeah, from here, gonna need a Hollow One. Oh, there's Hollow One. But he's got the Displacer in hand. So there's no mana to cast Cabal Therapy, which is really what you need here. You have to be able to get this Hollow One into the graveyard, and this Displacer is just going to KO him. It's going to exile him, and he will never come back thanks to this Containment Priest. So Dakmor Salvage, if it's in the graveyard, really needed to come back. And there we go. That would have required some planning into the future there to get a Dakmor Salvage down and then have a untap step with it as well. So Sean taking it down, really putting a beating here on Dredge with this Containment Priest and Eldrazi Displacer tech. That is all for this one, but don't worry, there is a lot more. You can check out our older videos, and we're always putting out new videos from ELD's Time Vault Games in Bellingham, Massachusetts. If you want to help the channel, of course, you can like, subscribe, share, tap that notification bell so you can know the next time our new videos come out. Thanks for watching.